Oh man, these are the days of CS news that you just love. What is up, peeps? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have Stewie2k revealing all in an interview with Mauisnake live on stream. If you guys want to go check out that VOD, it will be linked down below because he talks to Stewie and Stewie tells this guy everything. So let's just get into the juice, why don't we? As per usual, if you guys have stories, clips, anything, my DMs are open. And Stewie, I mean, let's just kick it off. We're talking about IEM Dallas, and apparently it was Stu who was maybe a bit offended being compared on the list of mechanical skill or overall skill between him and Hooxi, which he says is absurd that he's better. And if we're talking about peak Stu, I mean, peak Stu versus peak Hooxi, there's no hate here, by the way, guys, but I mean, we're talking about aura, all right? We're talking about mechanical skill. It's tough to deny the fact, at least in my opinion, Stewie, the better player there. He does not stop there. Before we hop into the rest of the video on all of this, we got to read some of Stewie2k chat messages, which blew some people away. The fact that he was away from CS for 2+ years, apparently he wasn't watching like anything. As he tells Maui, I was 20% of the Dallas event. There's no discussion, Maui. Don't make me make a statement without verbally saying it, this being about Hooxi. The fact I'm in a discussion under Hooxi is absurd, whether I'm mechanically better or mentally better. And then Maui starts pulling up the stats pages on him, and Stu goes, you can't pull facts. I've been away for 2.5 years, but I'll be honest with you completely. I knew G2 was an opportunity I couldn't pass up for a tier 1 event, even as a stand-in. I literally only wanted to play mainly because of NiKo. I didn't even know who m0NESY was, to be honest. That's how much I haven't watched any of the events. To which everyone started tweeting. We're like, this dude Stu is about to play next to arguably the best player in the world right now in CS, m0NESY, and didn't know who he was. Now, he later clarified he had heard the name, he knew a bit about him. He was certainly exaggerating, but to say it, it's just classic Stu. I only watched Complexity versus FaZe, Sydney, and CS2, but I loved the kid the first day of practice, and that's how he caught my attention, and I found out more and more about him, but he was a pleasure and one of the best teammates, honestly. Take it for what it is. I didn't even know any of the crap around him, but his IQ is what surprised me instantly. He loves the game and sees it a lot like I do. So instantly being like, okay, I got to give the kid props though. I didn't know too much about him, but he was insane. He also later describes a moment in the tournament where NiKo was calling a strat, and it was actually m0NESY stepping up and being like, no, you don't got to do this. We can punish them here. And it's just realizing that this kid is a teenager playing alongside someone still as good as NiKo, but even in his early years, he's doing these things. We are witnessing like an all-time great player, and what m0NESY is going to grow up to be is likely to be incredible. And again, that Maui VOD will be linked down below, guys. A great interview where Stu was just going off, apparently doing some more interviews with m0NESY in the future around this. But for people who are questioning who was making the calls at IEM Dallas for G2, Stu says it was all NiKo.
Okay, so with the calling in Dallas, who was like saying what percentage? Like who's saying what? How much?
Oh, it's probably like 100% NiKo. I'm not saying that he didn't call. He definitely did call, but a lot of I've been out for so long that I kind of just let them do their thing, but it kind of seemed the same. His calls were very simple. It was very more together, more kind of puggy, but at the same time less strategical side of things. But a lot of it was NiKo. I think at one point, I mean, I've been playing against him for so long that at some point, I already knew that our natural styles kind of complemented each other in general. But yeah, I felt like we complemented each other naturally already. And in the beginning, I was trying to suggest what I thought was better. I do that naturally as a player anyways, and I try not to step on any areas that I shouldn't be stepping in. So I kind of feel the vibe a little bit, see if that's what NiKo wanted, and kind of see if that's what he prefers from me. And in the beginning, it was very hard. Like I can tell he's like kind of open to listening to it, but at the same time, he was kind of rejecting it, but indirectly rejecting it. So I kind of would take steps back, and I realized that he kind of just wants me to be a soldier, like be in there and just do as they say and kind of not add anything extra. And in the beginning, I didn't feel comfortable doing that, like not saying anything. And I kind of just adjusted to it because I didn't want to be a stand-in that kind of just ruins their chemistry and everything. But in the beginning, I was just going with the flow, kind of listening to what they needed. And as the tournament started, it felt like super uncomfortable for me because during freeze time, like the Bosnian players have a lot to say. So I tried not to cut them off. And at the very end, it would just be like NiKo saying, hey, let's do C9. And I don't even know what C9 is.
Oh, okay.
Eventually, as the tournament went on deeper and deeper, the trust kind of came along the way. And I think he kind of loosened up a little bit and kind of put more trust in everybody. But regardless, the question, he called most of the tournament. He called everything, to be honest. I just think that the best teams in the world don't, it's not like one person micromanaging everything, one person calling everything.
But he also said he had more trust gained throughout the tournament, which does make a lot of sense. And although there maybe wasn't the most trust there, and he wasn't making, you know, any big statements himself, he did make note that the best teams in the world don't just have one guy micromanaging everyone, which I think is an interesting quote. The digest probably for more of the analysts out there, but the future of Stu and what he wants to play role-wise, if he wants to be an IGL. It's an interesting statement there as well. Also noting that he just had a week of full and official practice before IEM Dallas, which we kind of knew it was definitely shorthanded, but just think about that. A week of official practice before IEM Dallas and they take the event makes it all the crazier.
So how much time did you have to practice with him before the actual tournament?
So I had like a week of real practice with them. I was playing a lot in North America. Well, I played all of it in North America, but they started around like 3 a.m. my time, probably finished around like 8 a.m.
Yeah.
And then it was a little tough because in my head, I knew that 160 ping is going to be very tough to practice, but it's more about kind of getting the chemistry inside the server.
And then he gives us more details on not knowing who m0NESY was, kind of clears up a little bit of like, yes, he certainly knew a bit more about him than he led on to begin with, but he was also having like his moment where he's an older player coming back to these events, not knowing all the new guys. If you guys have ever been to a CS event, you have dozens of players walking around, and me myself have the same thing. Like the old guard are the most recognizable CS pros for me, right? Anywhere between like 2014 and 2018. And all the OGs, those are easier to spot. But the young up-and-comers who are changing rosters and hopping in and out of the top 25 and top 15, you can be in an elevator with 3 pros and not know it. Like I was in the elevator with the full 9Z squad. I didn't know it till after, you know? And so he kind of had his Kobe Bryant energy, as he puts it. He was talking to Siuhy and just kind of like ignoring him because he's at an event and he's there to win.
You wanted to play because you knew NiKo, but you didn't know much about m0NESY when you found this opportunity?
Well, I didn't really keep up with the game that much. Like, it's not because I didn't want to. It's just how I am. Like, even the only tournament I ever really stood in the stands or, like, even spectated, like, all of it was probably Major Columbus. And that was my first, like, actual major. But a lot of times when I'm, like, watching, it's not that I don't enjoy watching. I just kind of get this feeling that, like, you know, this is what I'm, like, aiming to be, where I'm aiming to be. And, like, this isn't something I want to be a part of, like, from the crowd. It's something that I want to be, like, on stage and, you know, like I'm a part of what everyone's watching, but that's just like the competitive side of things. But for m0NESY, like I heard of the name, I've heard of his name a few times, but it never really took my attention to a point where I'm researching the guy or anything. I really haven't kept up with like CS events. Like CS events will happen, and there's so many events nowadays that I'll still just be playing Face It all throughout the events, not knowing like who's playing, who's the best team in the world. I walked into that event not knowing that like mousesports was the best team in the world, and like all these players' names. Like I think I walked past Wonderful in the elevator. He literally said hi to me, and I just said hey, and I didn't even know who that was. I know it sounds disrespectful, but honestly, I was just in my own like focus, and like it was just literally G2 and me, and that's it. So I feel like the old guards, man, like they come back, they don't know who any of the new guys are, and I was the new guy. Now I'm the old guy.
Yeah, the literally he don't know you, lil bro moments.
I mean, I have like a lot of the like Kobe Bryant mentality. Like I don't really like talk to anyone. Like Siuhy, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Siuhy, I think.
Siuhy.
Yeah. On mouse sports, I forgot what he asked me. Very general question, very like friendly. Like before the game started, I think it was something like, "Hey, like how does it feel to be back and like playing on LAN?" And I saw the message, but I literally just ignored him in the server. But I feel like that's like, I mean, it just sends a message. Pretty much like I'm not fucking with you, like I'm not here to talk to you, like I'm here to just win this shit and just leave.
And then this dude got very open about the G2 atmosphere, which was maybe surprising for some people. The intimate details he was revealing, saying it was not always the most positive atmosphere, almost like an atmosphere where people maybe couldn't feel like they could speak up at all times. And then he also notes m0NESY is the best opper in the world, giving him further credit to just how crazy cracked this kid is.
I mean, I don't want them to hate me for saying this or like getting flack for saying it, but I'll say it. Like, I think when I joined, it was a little hard to really understand what's going on because, I mean, I'm from the outside and I don't have much information on this team. And I really only know NiKo with the history that we have.
Yeah.
And when the first day I got there in practice, like, you can tell not many people are talking. It feels a little tense in here and, like, there's not a whole lot of fun going on. And when people go over things, it's almost like a military type vibe, like where you got your general is explaining to you the day and like he's running down the agenda of the day and he's providing examples and everything. Everyone's watching and it's like almost like it's one man show and like no one's really enjoying their time here. It kind of feels like a 9 to 5. People are clocking in, clocking out. And I know like the vibes like that, like it's not a real team and there's gonna be times where people will not say things because they can't and like they feel like they don't have the room to. So like when there's not like a whole lot of like I guess fun in the air, then like it doesn't really push people to do better or like make them say things that they should be saying openly without feeling like they shouldn't be, if that makes sense. But
yeah, it's very militant and people they don't want to be the one that messes up, and so people are just not bringing things up.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
So I felt like in the first day, like when I felt that, I tried to throw in a few jokes here and there, tried to throw it in as smoothly as possible, and like it was a very tough crowd. And then I can tell m0NESY was trying to lighten the mood with me and like all those things, and that's why I think I meshed pretty well with him. Like I don't know, he surprised me a lot. He's the one player that definitely surprised me a lot, and I've never seen a player like that. And I never said like this is the best opera in the world that I've ever seen, and he's like the first player to make me say it. So
then he gave his thoughts on Taz and Nexa, but does himself say his main focus was on NiKo and m0NESY. Didn't really have too much time to observe how maybe not well Nexa were performing for the event because he was so focused on everything else.
So they've obviously benched Nexa since you've left. What can you say about him as a player?
Well, from the outside, look, I'm not even gonna lie to you, like focusing so much on NiKo and m0NESY like from the very start, my attention on Hunter and Nexa was almost like non-existent.
Okay.
So I focused a lot on them and just because I knew they were like the heart of the team and a lot of the things they will come up with and what they say will pretty much it's how it's gonna go. So I knew my attention was on them mostly. And a lot of people were giving shit to Nexa, and like I'm not gonna lie to you, like until the finals, I didn't watch like any of the highlights or any matches back or like really anything throughout the tournament. And until the finals, I didn't know how bad Nexa was actually performing until someone came up to me and said like, "Hey, you didn't see him die in the molly like 2 times?" And I didn't even know he died in the molly 2 times because I know some rounds there were. Like, people won't know it or see it. Like, there are times where... I remember there was a round where we got eco'd and on Inferno, and Nexa was actually the last guy A, and he was in pit, and he got shot in the side of the head with a Glock from Long or Arch.
Yeah.
And actually, the comm in-game was, yeah, they're both there. Like, they're both lane.
And finally, he said that Dallas was an absolute miracle run. It was magic, which I think a lot of us would agree with. You can't really mimic or hope to have an event like that too often.
Well, right now I don't really have like a concrete answer. I only say 20% because like what people say about my performance, like I'm surprised that this event, I mean this event was almost like a miracle. It was like just all magic in a sense. Like even the public view of me, like I came into the event like almost like with the mindset of like I don't really give a shit about anybody from the outside and I don't care what they say because I was already expecting like, you know, a balance of like hate and some love and a lot of people talking about my performance, blah, blah, blah. And, like they're not taking in the factors of I've been away from tier 1 2.5 years and not just that, like I'm getting slotted into a tier 1 event with no practice
And a last tidbit as well, just a crazy, crazy thing. He even says he didn't know who Donk really was. At one point, he thought Donk was just a streamer. So arguably like 2 of the top 3 best players in the world. This guy returns to IEM Dallas for the first time in over 2 years and just doesn't know 2 of the best players in the world. That is crazy.
So.
Oh yeah, I mean, I understood that from the start. I mean, m0NESY, when I say like I didn't know much about him, like I heard of the name, I heard of like what, like the basic talks around him. I mean, I didn't know it was like to that level of like, I mean, even like Donk, for example, when I came back to CS2 and people started talking about him before he had that Katowice event, when people were talking about him in my stream, and like I just came back, so I didn't even know like who Donk was. I actually thought he was just like a streamer, like a new streamer on the block, and like he was like everyone's talking about him. People were asking me like, when am I gonna play with Donk and like all these things. So I thought he was like a content creator.
But an absolutely insane interview from Stewie. He does mention he'll be doing more future interviews, like someone with Moses as well, which is going to be great. It's going to be more concrete, as he did respond later on Twitter to clarify more about Ilya, that being m0NESY, and what he did know about him. So he didn't think it was a huge thing to be said. It was a bit of an exaggeration, and I don't think anyone really took those words to heart or were offended, just because if you guys saw their presence on stage, they clearly enjoyed playing together, and Stewie throughout this entire interview gave plenty of props m0NESY's way, as were deserved. So just to clarify that up, but hopefully more coming from Stu, and his future is still undecided. We'll see if a team is in his future, and there's certainly more tidbits from this interview with Mauisnake in the future on this channel for some different videos. Till next time, we hope you guys all enjoy the daily CS news. My DMs are always open. Till then, we'll see you soon. Okay. Ta-ta.